The following is a presentation of TFNN. Time to talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, Paige. Good. How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal Edge. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico Haan and Paige Clarke.
Good morning. I'm Nico Haan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced, natural, wild world.
Hey, that's right, Nico. To recover our natural health and regain our rights and freedoms. Good morning. I'm Paige Clarke.
And it's a beautiful morning in downtown St. Pete. It's 76 degrees and cloudy, and we're in St. Pete instead
We're
of
in a new
Clearwater.
office. That's exactly right. Make sure you pick up our Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. That's 310 cell-ready ingredients that help you get the good stuff in and the bad stuff out.
And also, please pick up our Health Signals newsletter. Have a new one I'm working on right now for next week. So please pick it up. Current article here is there a limit to the human lifespan? And we talked a lot about that. Very interesting articles, sending you to all kinds of links and everything like that.
And if you're up and at it, you can give us a call at 877-927-6648.
Yeah, and if you have any questions on the show or after the show, you can always reach us after hours at TFNN.com, Nico or Paige.
Paige at TFNN.com.
So today I really wanted to talk a little bit about how we're oriented on things. When I go out in the woods, I want to be able to find my way back. And
That's very interesting, Nico, because I don't think many of us... our dependence on these electronic devices has made it so that we don't really have our senses about us.
Yeah, and
adding tips on a menu, for a restaurant to finding our way around town.
well, because we're all on these devices and they're kind of fun to follow them, and then you kind of go around brainlessly and find them. But if you're stuck out in the woods and you don't have any electronics, so what do? There are some really good tips in here. And one of the things it says, follow the land. He says, when you find yourself well off a trail, but not in the middle of completely unfamiliar territory, would you know approximately where you are? Kind of like when I was with Colorado Bigfoot, and he takes us up the mountain. He always seems to know where he is, no matter, it might be a new territory, it might be an old territory, but he always knows because he's very oriented towards the woods and where everything is. So you have to know where north and south and east and west is, naturally. But some of the things is, are you near a water source? So if you're lost and you don't know where you are, they say the best thing to do is stay, where you are, because it makes people easier to find. Mm-hmm. But if you're lost and you want to get someplace, then you have to kind of follow the land. And one of the ways is, where is water? Can you hear water? Can you see water? But if you go downhill, sooner or later, usually you do find water. Humans overwhelmingly live in valleys on or near fresh water. So if you go downhill, you follow any kind of water, you eventually see people, provided you don't stumble onto a trail first. And of course, if you see a trail, then you follow it, and they would recommend following that trail downhill. So that
Well, it's like a road more traveled instead of less traveled. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
and it might be a game trail, but if it's going downhill, sooner or later,
it's going to lead to something.
It's going to lead to water, usually, because game does that. Another thing here, it says consult the sun.
Yeah, it says even if you brought a map, it won't do you much good if you don't have your bearings. So fortunately, the sun can point you and give you some general directions.
Yeah, it's not really precise. You really have to know where that sun rises, and it's not east and west like we think. It's more southeast and northwest the way the sun rises. And of course, it depends which hemisphere you're in. Mm-hmm. If you're in the southern hemisphere, things are turned upside down completely. So it's really valuable to kind of know where you are and where the sun is and how you can operate. So if you're out in there, you started at 10 o'clock and you're out there for a couple hours, the sun should be pretty much above you. Then you can kind of see where that sun is going.
Here's a little tip.
Okay.
It says, despite its quirks, though you can still use the sun to get your bearings, you find a straight stick about 3 feet long, and you stand it up vertically in a flat patch. And next, mark the top of the stick's shadow on the ground Wait 10 to 15 minutes and mark the top of the shadow again. And the first mark should be to the west of the second. If you orientate your body to the first impression, which will be west, which is to your left, and the second east is to your right, you should be facing north.
Right.
You know, these are Girl Scout and Boy Scout tips that we should all probably
Yeah, it's the same thing
learning.
with the stars. Of course, we have Polaris now is the most brightest star right now. It's in the Big Dipper, and if you go to the end of the handle, that's Polaris right there. Another thing you can do is use that same stick and see where the star moves, east or west. And they're always moving west, so you know where east is. The same thing if you're pointing north. So that's kind of nice.
Well, another thing is to read the night sky. When you're out after dark, the sky still points you in the right direction, like you mentioned, looking at the stars. And the moon moves around the sky even more often than the sun does, but we have a trick you can use to find roughly north, and it works in both hemispheres.
Yeah.
Tell them that.
That's, where is that one?
Well, you remember moonlight is just a reflection of sunlight, so the bright part of the moon faces the sun. And the dark side faces away from it. That means it can offer a rough line from east to west. So when the moon is a crescent, look at the two horns and draw a line connecting them. Extend this line down to the horizon. The point where it hits the ground gives you an approximation of due north. Ah, that's a nice
Another
little
thing
tip.
that we learned in Boy Scouts, of course, is that the moss always grows on what side of the tree?
North side.
North side of the tree, because that's where the shade is.
Yes.
So that is a good orientation too, especially if it's more of a wet terrain.
Right.
But even in some dry terrains, there will be some moisture there, and you may be able to find some moss. Of course, reading the night sky, a little dipper. Now, there are some non-digital tools. If you're out backpacking, you need to take things, and I have a little bug-out bag that I use normally, and in it is always a mirror. And I always have a little mirror that's hanging in my car. So I've always got that. I've always got a flare of some kind and something to make fire with. These are the things I always carry.
You know, carry a compass in a non-battery reliant way to call for help. I think a flare or a signal mirror, and that way if you get lost, you can stay put, and rescue team can always find you.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of this, you know, my son, Austin, is in Tahoe.
Yeah.
I've been really wanting him. I'm trying to be that kind of mom that's trying to steer him. You know, it's hard to steer him after they get older, but...
Yeah. They have an influence that you don't know about.
Well, out there, they have these college degrees. I mean, it's a certification program, but it's in survival, wilderness survival.
Sure.
It's highly sought after.
Oh, yeah.
If you travel in other countries or work in other countries at resorts.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable information to have. Yeah,
exactly.
So, I mean, if you can take courses like that in your area, that's invaluable, especially if you listen to the Suspicious Observer and you listen to David Devine of Adapt 2030. We're going to go in the next decade and have some really hard times, or we may be without a grid for extended periods of time. This is valuable stuff that you need to know, because now all of a sudden you're going to be finding food not in the grocery store, but you're going to have to find it yourself, which means maybe going out in the wild. Anyway, after the break, I wanted to continue with this from a different aspect of how we're using a lot of gadgets and what this is actually doing to our brain. I think it's really important that we know where we are so we know where we're going. And maybe we're losing that ability. So stick around, folks. Please pick up some Primal Edge during the break. This is our one-shot wonder. This is something that we believe you need to be healthy. So pick that up today. We'll be right back. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionics, oil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated folic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
TFNN is excited about our new software charting program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts. In collaboration with Tom O'Brien and using his best-selling book, The Art of Timing the Trade, Your Ultimate Trading Mastery System, David White has programmed an outstanding piece of software that will complement any trader's methodology. Using this first-of-its-kind program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts allows you to scan thousands of stocks for Fibonacci formation setups, including Gartley's, ABC's, butterflies, and much more. The Art of Timing the Trade Charts is designed to help you when scouring the markets for stocks just beginning to form the trading patterns that many investors spend days, weeks, or even months searching to find. And right now, we're offering licenses available at only $79 a month. We are so confident that you're going to love this new charting software that will even give you a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible new piece of software. Get your copy of The Art of Timing the Trade Charts today by visiting TFNN.com. Will the S&P 500 continue to climb? For bold trades on U.S. large-cap stocks in either direction, trade SPXL, SPUU, or SPXS. Directions Daily S&P 500 Bull and Bear Leveraged ETFs. Direction Leveraged ETFs. An investor should carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses before investing. A fund's prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a fund's prospectus and summary prospectus, call 866-476-7523 or visit directioninvestments.com. A fund's prospectus and summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Nico and Paige take your phone calls now. Toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044.
Welcome back to the show. I'd like to remind everybody that we have the CBD page in our newsletter. And of course, this gives you some nice coupons here. There's a gift card.
And also the Biomedic. I mean, the Purium company has great products, but these are two products that got mine and your attention because of our passion for...
Yeah, the CBD Plus, which is the 1,500 milligrams of the CBDs, and then the Biomedic, which actually takes out the glyphosate out of your body. So that's a great detox.
Lowers inflammation and removes glyphosate.
So all the information is here in the catalog. There's a little promo about the CBDs, and invite you to pick that up. And of course, as always, our one-shot wonder, which also has the fulvic and humic acid, just like the Biomedic does.
That's exactly right, Nico.
So I wanted to talk a little bit, since we were talking about, getting lost in the woods, what actually spatial orientation is and what it does to the brain. And, the brain is a remarkable organ, and its ability to create, reason, and analyze and process tons of information every day. But it also gives us an idea of and the ability to move around in our environment using an innate sense of directions. I've always had this. I was always able to get in my car and no matter where I was, go. If I didn't recognize anything, I'd drive a little bit, and I could figure it out.
Right, because this skill is called spatial orientation. It is especially useful for finding routes in unfamiliar places. Some of us are directionally challenged. I sort of am in the middle personally, but did you know also spatial orientation is part of the IQ testing? It's one of the facets that's involved. And the reason I remember this is my oldest child, Megan, tested really high on this, and I'll have to ask her if that still seems to be the case.
And spatial orientation is crucial for adapting to new environments and getting from one point to another without it. People will walk around in circles, kind of like that. And one of the things that they did with this article is coming from, let me see, it's Gigs Lounge, GISLounge.com.
So the brain has a special region just for navigating the spatial environment, and the structure is called the hippocampus, and it's known as the map reader of the brain, and it helps us to determine where we're at. And there was a recent study by scientists at the University College in London that found that gray matter in the brains of taxi drivers grew and adapted to help them store detailed detailed mental maps of their
Yeah,
city.
so if you go into a big city, just like New York or something like that, the cabbies always know these little shortcuts because the traffic is horrendous.
They've created their own, they've
Yes,
grown
and
their
I've
gray
always
matter.
done this too. When I was in Detroit, I had a job downtown. I went to school downtown for a year, and getting downtown, Grand River Avenue, that thing was flowing fast. A lot of the other streets were not, and expressways were down. So this is very, very helpful. I always use this to get around. Now, what they did with these experiments in I think the University College in London, is they took these cab drivers and the ones that were just using the GPS versus the ones that were using their innate ability, they showed that people with the GPS, the brain, the hippocampus there was shutting down. It was completely
Atrophy.
dark. Atrophy.
Yeah. Not being activated, at
Now,
least.
this is just with those cab drivers. I can only imagine what would happen with our children growing up with these devices and not having the orientation at all, not beginning with that orientation that kids always have. Because you and I always say, in the summertime when we were kids, we were out that screen door.
The screen door went slam, slam, slam. You were barefoot, you ran, and you just listened for mom and the sunset.
Yeah, but you knew where you were all the time.
Yeah,
You could always
exactly.
find your way home, no matter where you were, how far you were, where somebody took you. That's the ability that we have. And it looks like, on these studies, they're saying this stuff shuts down. So if you're shutting it down from the get-go, that's even worse to me.
I agree. And, I just had a thought while you were saying that.
Okay.
You think about it, when we were kids and we felt safe. We explored our neighborhood and our town, and now nobody lets their kids do anything like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is fostered by scary movies that create the fear that, don't let your kids go anywhere because the boogeyman's going to get them. And obviously there are some boogeymen, but
Well, there
how
were
much
some
of it is...
boundaries that my parents, and I think every parent does. The first thing was you stay in the yard. Then you grew up a little bit more, and then you can say, I need to be able to see where you are. So you might not be in the yard, but I can still see you. And then a little bit older, I remember my mother saying, you better be able to hear me when I shout out the door.
Right.
As long as you can do that. And then after 10 years old, it was pretty much I could do anything I want. I was out in the woods, I was climbing rocks, and my mother didn't see me till dark, just like you said.
Yeah.
So this is how we grew up, and that spatial orientation was very, very important to me.
Very refined, too, all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually utilize these parts of our brain. So what I'm seeing and what you're pointing out in this great article is that we're really changing the mapping of our brains by our
At McGill
choices.
University, researchers did a series of 3 studies on the effects of using GPS devices on the brain. The scientists wanted to measure the brain activity of people using 2 methods that humans employ when navigating. The first method is called spatial navigation. This is where the landmarks are used to build cognitive maps and help us determine where we are in that particular environment. And the second is a stimulus response. In other words, auto mode, you're using GPS. And you retrace your steps according to repetition. That's, what we always did, but using the GPS, you get lost really good because if you're not using that GPS and you're used to it, now all of a sudden, where are you? Now, it's very handy. What I like the GPS for is going to a new place that I've never been for, and it makes it very easy. But I remember I used to do that anyway. But we're so reliant on these things. My wife still loves the paper map, so when we go on these trips, she's got all the maps there, and she loves doing that. And this is what is really important.
I used to love to get the triptych,
yeah,
and flip the page. It's like, okay,
exactly.
I see another dot on the map. We're going to be passing that soon.
Yeah, and now we can do these tricks ourselves.
Well, here you go. It says researchers are now questioning whether modern global positioning systems and advanced mapping are actually doing humans any good. Because the studies done by the British Cartographic Society has determined that high-tech maps can get users from point A to point B, but are falling short compared to traditional paper maps. Old-fashioned paper maps not only showed users how to navigate, but also gave other important information about an area, such as historical landmarks, government buildings, and cultural institutions, farms, maybe a tourist attraction or a historical event. And the fear of using a GPS exclusively is a loss of cultural and geographic literacy. The more humans use GPS, the more cut off from the real world they might become. I think that's a fear we have in so many ways.
And here's a chart showing the results of the hippocampus, and this is with using GPS, so there's 2 different ways.
Okay, so that's the actual value of what's going on in the hippocampus. You can see as a taxi driver drives in months, his hippocampic activity is increased.
And here, if you're not doing that, you're using just GPS, it decreases in volume.
Wow.
So that's pretty remarkable. Of course, they have a little picture of it, too. Can't see it too
So here,
well
while you're looking at those charts, this Dr. Toro Ishikawa, researcher and specialist in human spatial behavior, has done a number of studies of how using a GPS device affects the ability of humans to navigate the surrounding environment. And they're at the University of Tokyo, and they've been doing a lot of research there as well. The group showed that the routine, was really impacted by continually using the GPS. So.
Researchers who point out the benefits of paper map claim that using GPS actually makes it harder for people to navigate. A GPS device encourages people to stare down at a screen instead of looking around the environment. And the size of the screen doesn't help either. And there's other things in it.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so stick around, folks. We got a lot more. We'll be right back.
We'd like to tell you about the personal training studio that Nico is the owner and president of, Performance Training. Since 1998, Nico has trained individuals and groups to improve their health both mentally and physically. As a certified personal trainer, Nico's main focus is on demonstrating exercises correctly to avoid injury and teaching his clients how to manage their past injuries while getting the most out of their personal training sessions. The Performance Training Studio is filled with unique training equipment that enhances balanced results at a faster rate while minimizing damage and discomfort. For more information, you can give Nico a call at 727-418-8740 or email him at nico@tfnn.com. Let him know you heard him on TFNN and save up to $100 on a special package just for TFNN listeners. Act today.
Tiger TV is an exciting way to experience TFNN programming. See high-definition video, giving you crystal clear charts, as well as seeing some of the faces of TFNN's highly acclaimed financial experts with crisp, full-fidelity sound. Catch Tom O'Brien, John Logan, Steve Rhodes, Basil Chapman, Larry Pesavento, Think or Swim, David White, Andy Hecht, and Daryl Martin in crystal clear, high-definition audio and video. Tiger TV, exclusively at TFNN.com.
Has the current market volatility continued to stop you out of trades when the market spikes against you? Now is the perfect time to open up an account with Nadex. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a brand new, completely regulated Chicago-based exchange, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their completely free trading platform, which also features real-time charts and full customization capability. One of the advantages of trading with Nadex in volatile markets is that your risk is always capped and you have the ability of keeping your trades open even when the market spikes against you. Nadex is completely brand new with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com. Or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
Many of our new listeners have heard about The Tiger's Den. The Tiger's Den is a lively community where professional traders and investors can meet, exchange ideas and information in a comfortable, moderated atmosphere. Hear all of the TFNN shows, plus see all of the charts as they happen live, and have access to archives of all of those charts. You can test drive The Tiger's Den absolutely free for 30 days and greatly enrich your knowledge of these markets and how to make your money work for you. Details on The Tiger's Den are on the front page of TFNN.com. This segment is brought to you by Think or Swim. For more information, just click the Think or Swim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
Welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. We've been talking about what GPS devices might actually be doing to our brains. And just a quick comment, Nico, before we move on, the concern over GPS devices and its effects on the human brain only highlight a greater unease of what is technology doing to our critical thinking skills and our ability to memorize things. And with this information only a click away, people are losing their common sense. And each of these new innovations of Google Maps and so forth only brings in a decrease of general geographic knowledge and the use of common sense. So let's move on now, Nico, to 3 hacks that can help our brains learn stuff faster.
Well, one of the things is concerning about this, that we've been talking a lot about the 5G network and how all this stuff is harming us, but not only is the electricity involved in this that's harming us, but the actual of these devices taking over our brain and our brain actually not resting, just kind of going dark. That's, so there's 2 sides to this whole thing. So we're being attacked both ways, not only with the electricity that's irritating us, but also now because of what the laziness of the natural human being has always been to go the easiest way. And GPS comes out, and boy, I remember I had a buddy who bought the first GPS, and he's walking to the door, and he's so proud he's got a GPS, and he says, "This shows me that I'm here." And he goes, "Oh." It was kind of weird, but I remember him doing that, and I goes, yeah, it's useful, but it's kind of useless too, because you are here, you're here, you don't need the device.
Hey, and I like technology. It's very addicting, but I am very concerned about our becoming cyborgs. This move towards the singularity, where there's one conscious mind.
Kind of like the Matrix and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the Matrix was very much a foreshadowing of things to come.
Sense, yeah.
And I think that we need to pay attention to this, and kind of less can be more, guys. I really think we're needing to figure out a way to hold on to the brilliance of what makes a human human. And we might think a lot of these machine innovations are great, but in fact, they nowhere compare.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to transition to these 3 hacks. It's kind of spurred my interest because being a musician and learning different traits of things, I always had this little method, and they mentioned that in here, and it was just something that I did when I was practicing. There's a time when you practice, and then you just put it aside for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you come back to it and do it again, and you find great leaps in that.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's like when I was trying to learn a song or maybe writing a song, I would, you'd be writing because the inspiration comes fast, so you have to write it down or even tape it. That would be, the best way to do it. But then you have to kind of step away with it and then go back into it, especially if you're learning somebody else's music. And same with studying for tests and things like that. I used to set my timer for 10-minute things, and then I used to read. And in my own voice, I used to tape it and then play it back. But
this came from Fast Company, all right? So if you're trying to learn some new skills and improve your current ones, many people are interested in that. Unfortunately, many of us find that learning processes are slow and tedious and painful. But the good news is, there are a few basic brain science-backed techniques to help you acquire and master new skills. And number 1 is tapping into the spacing effect.
Yeah, skill acquisition isn't an event, it's a process. You want to truly try to master a new skill, it's far better to invest small amounts of time over an extended period than a large amount of time all at once.
That's kind of what you were just sharing with us.
This is called space affecting. I never knew that, which refers to finding that skill development tends to improve when learning is spaced out over time. And
maybe that's why a lot of school programs don't have the curriculums jammed in. They feel like the more time you have, you come back to it, you learn, and you come back to it. Makes sense.
And when I was doing tests, the same thing applied. I'd do the test, I'd go through everything that I knew, right, just like that.
A lot of people would think this would make it longer.
It doesn't, because my 2-hour exam was always an hour and 10 minutes. So you would go fast through it, then I'd go through the ones and I would go instinctively, what does it feel like, and then do that, and then, of course, the ones I had no clue about, those were the ones last.
Number 2, train your basal ganglia. Okay, what's that, guys?
Okay, most of us focus on comprehension when we're attempting to improve a skill. This may seem sensible enough, but science shows that while understanding is vital to heightening proficiency, it's hard to improve when you don't know how. It isn't enough to obtain masterly.
Right, so in other words, turning any newly acquired knowledge into an actual skill requires engaging a special part of your brain that heavily impacts learning and movement, known as the basal ganglia. In other words, learn it, then apply it.
Yes, there's 2 things you need to know about this, and first, it learns slowly, unlike other regions of the brain, such as the neocortex, which deals with the executive functions of the brain and learns very quickly. The basal ganglia takes much longer to absorb new experiences and information.
So secondly,
it learns by repeating, performing the behavior.
so give us an example.
Well, when you're teaching riding a bike to kid, you can explain how to steer and how to pedal in a few minutes. But understanding it and actually getting on the bike and doing it, that's where the time takes.
That's a cool point there. So in other words, the instruction set might be
just get your balance, no problem.
Get your balance, but then,
exactly.
how do you do it?
Yeah, and I remember my dad teaching me, and he was hanging on to it. First were the training wheels, then you knock them off, and then he hangs on the seat for a while, and pretty soon you're gliding along, and you look back, and Dad's no longer there, and you go, oh, I'm doing it. And that's when you fall, of course.
Right.
But that's when you get back up again.
Hey, so number 3, stop trying to stretch your attention span. Learning how to execute any new skill competently takes one crucial factor many of us don't pay attention to. And what is that? That is attention. The human attention is complex with many factors influencing how attentive we can be at any given moment. Still, there's at least one way to improve your ability to pay attention, and it's amazingly simple. Just stop trying to stretch your attention span beyond its ordinary limits. Recognize that you have a limit.
Well, recognize that repetition is what solves that problem. So you do something, you get away from it, you go back to it, you repeat it, and sooner or later it starts to sink in unconsciously. You don't realize that all of a sudden you know this.
They call that micro-learning.
Yeah.
Zooming in on something, and then when you find you're spacing it out, you say, okay, I need a break, right? And that's kind of like similar to number 1. But none of the brain science is especially complicated, folks. But the reality is that each of us behaves in ways that make it harder for our brains to grasp a particular skill. So focused bursts of repeated practice may seem inefficient when you block out all those learning sessions in your calendar, but from your brain's point of view, it's the fastest route to mastery.
Yeah, so the 10-minute rule is the rule that I was talking about that I was always using. His research suggests that the brain's ability to pay attention typically plummets to near zero after roughly 10 minutes. So focus instead on developing a skill over numerous short sessions. This will help you give the task your full attention and obtain maximum results in the shortest time.
Well, here's a perfect example. Do your 10-minute studying, get up from your desk, do 10 push-ups, stretch, breathe. You know, I was at the Qigong conference this weekend.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Science Qigong, it's always kind of like a homecoming. And really, we had some great speakers. And really, what the take-home point is just getting back to breathing.
Yeah.
And when we breathe, we oxygenate our brain, and we're going to think better, and we're going to perform better.
Yeah.
So it was all very neat.
None of the brain science is especially complicated, but in reality, each of us often behaves in ways that makes it harder for our brain to grasp that particular skill. So using these little methods really does work. Stick around, folks. We've got a lot more. Please take time to pick up a Primal Edge during the break, and we will be right back. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
No matter what kind of trader you are, 2018 is a great time to try out a subscription to Tom O'Brien's Gold Report. Whether you just plan on diversifying your portfolio with some exposure to gold and gold mining equities, or you're a gold bull that sees 2018 as the year of commodities, now is a great time to sign up for the Gold Report. Tom O'Brien publishes his Gold Report every Monday morning before the market opens and covers a variety of topics including gold, silver, platinum, copper, the XAU and HUI, the dollar, bonds, South African rand, as well as more than 20 of the most actively traded mining equities. Start your 2018 off with a bang and sign up for the Gold Report today. The Gold Report is a long-term newsletter where the focus is on building real wealth through the management of a successful portfolio of gold stocks. For all the details and to start your subscription right now, visit the front page of TFNN.com and you'll find the Gold Report under Investment Newsletters. David White's newsletter, The Technology Insider, is focused like a laser on finding the next big things in technology. If you had invested only $10,000 in Microsoft in 1986, you'd have been a millionaire by 2000. Disruptive technology like Microsoft's is the key to these massive long-term profits, and the Tech Insider is the vehicle from TFNN to capitalize on these opportunities. This is the go-to newsletter that identifies, monitors, and profits on mostly little-known cutting-edge companies with great long-term prospects. David's experience is as an inventor of Emmy-winning animation products for TV and Hollywood that propelled a company public. Match that with 14 years as a full-time trader, and he's uniquely qualified to guide you through the light-speed world of ever-evolving high-tech. If you're ready to ride the next big technology bull market for less than $40 per month, log on to TFNN.com and get your 2-week free trial to the Technology Insider. Get in on the ground floor of the next big thing today.
Don't forget, you can listen to TFNN live on your mobile device 24 hours per day. Go to TFNN.com, then hit Watch Tiger TV. That's TFNN.com, then hit Watch Tiger TV for the latest market information.
Welcome back. You know, we opened up with being in the forest at the beginning of the show today, and it reminds me of a song. For those of you that are rockers, you'll remember the Rush song. There is unrest in the forest. There is trouble with the trees. For the maples want more sunlight, and the oaks ignore their pleas. But this is kind of a good opening to the article that we want to go to now. Came from Quartz. A biologist believes that trees speak a language that we can learn. And perhaps this could be helpful if we find ourselves lost in the forest. Maybe we can say, hey, Redwood, can you give me some help here to get out of this forest?
Well, of course, you can check and see where the moss is, and they give you a good clue. But
you sure did.
I was drawn to this article because of Mark Abell in Colorado.
Right.
Because he always sees, I need to go out in the forest. I have to be there because this is, you know, things speak to me out here. And I think he's talking about Bigfoot, of course, but is he talking also about the trees?
Well, that's kind of how I feel, Nico. And as you know, I'm heading out to Tahoe, and I'm going to hang with my son, and we're going to hike and play in the woods all day, and that's going to feel like home again to me. But let's get on to this article because the author says that he or she is in a redwood forest in Santa Cruz, California, taking dictation from the trees outside of his cabin. They speak constantly, even if quietly, communicating above and underground using sounds, sense, signals, and vibes, and they're naturally networking, connecting with everything that exists, including me and you. I like that.
Yeah, and when you're out in the forest, when you hear the trees moving and the leaves and the breeze, you can hear so much, and it's really becomes, you know, when you become more part of nature, it just feels so much better than being in a city. I mean, it's nice like going to New York or Chicago or some big city because there's a lot of vibration in there too, but it's completely different than the solitude of the forest, where there may be a lot of noise out in the forest, but it's still solitude in the city. You never have that.
Exactly. It's really about the stimulating the sympathetic or the parasympathetic. You go into the forest. We've talked about the power of forest bathing, and that studies show that the immune system stays healthier and more on alert in a healthy way by having a short walk, even if it's just once a month in a forest.
And I think that same innate ability that is in our brain that uses the hippocampus for your direction and knowing where you are. So if we're living in a city, it just makes sense that the natural abilities that we have in the forest, hearing these sounds, are dulled and we don't know what they mean. So there's a disconnect when we go out in the forest. And maybe that's why people are not drawn to it anymore, because they don't go there. This is my own thinking on the whole thing.
Well, the biologists, ecologists, foresters, and naturalists increasingly argue that trees speak a language and that humans can learn this language, because many people struggle with this concept. They just can't believe that trees are interconnected. And this is argued by biologist George David Haskell in his 2017 book, The Songs of Trees. Connection in a network, he says, necessitates communication and breeds languages, understanding that nature is a network and it's the first step in hearing trees talk. Because for the average global citizen living far from the forest today, as we've become detached from our natural environment, this probably seems abstract to the point of absurdity. But Haskell points out to the readers to the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador for practical guidance. There's the Wairani people who live there in the Amazon forest, and nature's networked character and the idea of communication among all living things seems obvious to these people. In fact, the relationship between the trees and other life forms are reflected in their language. Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, so I look at this tree, too. I mean, when
That's a redwood forest.
look at that. That's
mean,
a
that's
majestic
just-
thing. And now notice another thing. You don't see any X's or tree bends here. This is what a natural forest looks like. When you go to Colorado Bigfoot and you see the X's, you know that's not natural. That's not the way things fall in the forest. So this is a natural forest. It's beautiful.
And even the one that the Bigfoot lives in is a natural forest, but it's a sign that there's somebody living there.
I think so.
Yeah,
Something's doing it.
Or you're you're convincing us more and more. So to these people, the Wairani people in the Amazon rainforest, things are described not only by their general type, but also by the other beings surrounding them. So for example, any one cebu tree isn't a cebu tree, but it is the ivy-wrapped cebu. And another is the mossy cebu with the black mushrooms. So they actually are identifying certain trees as members of a community.
Well, that's natural. I think the native people in any forest know the trees much better than any biologist would, because they know their function, they know what they speak of, and they identify them a lot different than by their common names or even by their Latin names. In science, they have their own little thing to it. And this is the way this is that spatial orientation we were talking about. They know where they are because of what they see.
There's the tree with the with the black mushrooms, and they know it. Listen to this. Because they relate to the trees as living beings with intimate ties to surrounding people and other creatures, the Wairani aren't alarmed by the notion that a tree might scream when it's cut, or surprised that harming a tree could cause trouble for humans. The lesson city dwellers should take from the Wairani, Haskell says, is that dogmas of separation fragment the community of life. They wall humans in a lonely room, and we must ask the question, can we find an ethic of full earthly belonging?
There's another thing that this reminds me of, and this is when Native Americans and a lot of species around the world that are still in their habitat, before they start cutting down things, they communicate with it. They add their spirit to it. They indicate why this is happening. Why do I want this tree down? Why do I want to make a different space than what's already here? And this is part of the ceremonies that Native people always have, to connect themselves so they can make nice with the environment instead of, so they're still cutting it down, but there's a reason for it, and they give the reason for it. And this would probably, in a world of harmony, you would say, well, this is the way things must work, because this is how I'm communicating with my tree to tell you what I'm doing with it, and this will make it a lot better and a lot easier for everybody.
If you're interested in learning a little bit more about this, redefining communication, tree language is a totally obvious concept to ecologist Suzanne Simard, who spent 30 years studying forests, and in June 2016, she gave a TED Talk, has nearly 2.5 million views, and it's called How Trees Talk to Each Other. And Simard grew up in the forests of British Columbia in Canada studying forestry and worked in the logging industry. She felt conflicted about cutting down trees and decided to return to school to study the science of tree communication. And now she teaches ecology at the University of British Columbia and researches the below-ground fungal networks that connect trees and facilitate underground inter-tree communication interaction. This is fascinating.
Yeah, she says, I want to change the way you think about forests. You see, underground there is this other world, a world of infinite biological pathways that connect trees and allow them to communicate and allow the forest to behave as though it's a single organism.
A community.
Yeah, it's a community. And if you know anything about forestry and that, a stand of tree is probably just one tree, one organism with many shoots going up, but the roots are all connected. And this is especially true with elm trees. They say in Indiana there was one elm tree that we cut down in 20 years, but there was thousands cut down, but it was one tree.
And she says, in the end, she says, there's a lesson to be learned from how forests relate. She says there's a lot of cooperation rather than just competition among and between species, as was previously believed. So maybe Russia's song from 2112 about the trees, maybe they weren't competing, maybe they were collaborating.
There you go.
We'll be right back after this break.
I'm certain you are or strive to be one of the best at everything you do in life. It's the most common trait that we tigers and tigresses share. If you're looking to become the best of the best when it comes to managing your money, let me teach you to do what most wealth managers tell you can't be done, which is how to time the markets. I'm Steve Rhodes, author of Mastering Probability, and for the last 12 months, Timer Digest has been tracking my newsletter signals, which have earned me the ranking as their #1 market timer in the nation for the S&P 500 for the last 12, 6, and 3 months. Timer Digest also ranks me as the #1 market timer for gold as well. The fact is, markets can be timed, and I'll teach you the exact set of tools that I use that has transformed me into one of the best at what I do. Sign up for Mastering Probability today by clicking on the newsletter tab on the homepage of TFNN.com and get immediate access to workshops where I take you step by step how to use an extraordinary set of tools as well as provide great market calls too. Sign up today.
Hi folks, Tom O'Brien here. If you'd like to get my daily newsletter, Market Insights, then now is a great time to sign up for a 30-day free trial. Every morning by 9:30, I send out my morning letter to subscribers with market commentary on a variety of markets, currencies, and commodities to keep investors up to date on the day's trading action. Included in Market Insights are specific buy and sell recommendations for stocks, ETFs, and even options, with stops and price targets included for every trade in my newsletter. If you'd like to try my newsletter risk-free for 30 days, then head over to the front page of TFNN and you'll find Market Insights under Trading Newsletters. I use my years of trading experience to bisect and dissect the market every morning and give my subscribers the most important information they need to know for the day ahead. I even issue afternoon updates for my subscribers whenever warranted with important market action. I'm always scouring the market for the next great trading opportunity. Sign up for your 30-day free trial to my daily newsletter, Market Insights, today by visiting the front page of TFNN.com. Wow! Go get 'em, folks.
No matter where you're listening to TFNN programming, you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, located in the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and call-in talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com, educating investors.
And welcome back to the show. So I wanted to go over this because I put this in the next newsletter. It's how to treat every type of insect bite and sting.
Very apropos, since we've been talking about playing in the forest.
Yeah, if you're playing in the forest, you're probably going to get stung or bit by something. Bees and wasps, these are probably the worst stings that you'll get, although ticks probably...
Yeah, those might be painful, but they're mild. But bees and wasps, when a honeybee stings you, its stinger comes out in your skin.
Yeah, don't pull it out with tweezers. Instead, use a credit card and kind of glide over the edge,
Okay.
and that's a good way to take it out. Wasps can sting you many times, though.
Oh, see, I have a fear of wasps because when I was a kid, I had one of those metal playgrounds,
Yeah.
and I used to, swing on it, and, like on the end of the tube of the frame, there was a plastic thing, and I put my hand over the end, and a wasp had built a nest, and I got stung, a bunch of times, yeah.
And when I was young, I remember my swollen lip when I was probably 4 or 5, my grandmother's place in Holland. I got a big blown-up lip. So they're not fun, but the best thing to do is put ice on it for about 20 minutes, just as quickly as you can, and then you can kind of go on and off every 15 or 20 minutes and do that. That really does help. Ibuprofen an ice. That's about the only things you can really do, unless you're really allergic to it, and then you may need
Well, I personally think one of the first things to do, and I don't think it's actually, it probably would not be listed here,
Okay.
but I think would be to get some of your own urine and put it on the...
Oh, yeah.
Because as soon as you get stung, your body starts manufacturing antibodies or reactions to it.
Right.
So that might be a really good thing, you know,
Yeah, I've heard
a
of
little
that
urine
before
therapy.
too. That's a good thing to bring up. Yeah,
Yeah.
and those are the things that we kind of go, but those are the things that our ancient ancestors really knew about and used.
It's the stuff that works.
That's the stuff that
And
works
it doesn't
too.
cost you anything.
Fire ants, that's one that's kind of new to North America. Most of these fire ants come from Argentinian fire ants, and I've been bit. I was in the pest control business for a few years.
You are. That's right. I forgot. You're you have
highly
history.
sensitive to these, and even other types of, even like live oak and things like that. But these can be really a problem, and you may need some of the, some help, some treatment along the way. And of course, antihistamine is what you would use, and they have topicals for that, which work quite well.
So many people have to carry an EpiPen.
EpiPen is the thing that if you're highly allergic, you probably need one of those in your kit.
You know, it's probably a good idea, like you mentioned, to, not that I love it, but a Benadryl or something. In the event that you are out on a hike and
always
you
take
start to get a
Benadryl.
reaction,
Yep.
you might not be able to get back.
That's right. So
you
an
know.
EpiPen, Benadryl, even Benadryl Salve or cream works
Do you have to
pretty
have a
well.
prescription to have an EpiPen?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so. You never know.
Yeah.
Some people are very allergic, some people are not. So you.
But we
you have
really
to know
need to
that.
kind of move into this whole potential disease spreaders, the tick thing.
Yeah, well, they do spread it, and of course, if you're going out in the woods, the thing that you have to do is cover up. You need to lock those pants down inside the boots, or have a clip, or some kind of gaiter, or something like that. And same with long sleeves. Go out in the woods, and you don't want to be bare because there's a lot of ticks out there, and ticks can be a real problem. This article, like I said, is going into our next newsletter, so you can really get in depth. There's a lot of clickable links to all the different types of diseases and how to spot these things. Mosquitoes, of course, are all around, and a lot of them carry diseases also. So, you really have to pay attention to this. And when you're out in the woods, beware. So people who don't go out very often really need this information. So pick up the Health Signals newsletter, and you got all the information that you need there.
That's right. That's right. We've got stuff to help you stay healthy.
So, how do you like being here in St. Pete?
Yes. Well, I love St. Pete. I think it's
Yeah.
great town. A little far, a little bit of a drive.
Yeah, it
but
took
a
me
little
about
different.
30 minutes, which used to be 15 minutes, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And,
It's kind of nice, though, heading east, seeing the sunrise.
yeah.
You know?
There you go. One
That's
of our
it.
problems is solved right there. I
Right.
kind of like that. But
That's
this
true.
starts at my 10th year, and apropos in a new place, and
That's right.
maybe another 10 years. Who knows what happens?
Thanks for joining us, folks. Make sure you pick up some of our some of the Primal Edge, our one-shot wonder for staying healthy, and the Health Signals newsletter. We're here to help you stay healthy, and we'll see you next show.
Bye-bye.
Since 1984, Basil Chapman has been using the Chapman Wave methodology to advise traders of his expert market opinion. While originally hand-drawing charts from the late 1970s into the 1980s, Basil noticed that prices under most circumstances virtually always had a certain number of legs to the upside before declining sharply. Later, Basil found that computer software, which included the standard market technical indicators, enhanced the degree of accuracy in calling price turns, as well as market trend calls. Thus was born the Chapman Wave sequence. Using the Chapman Wave methodology along with other indicators, Basil Chapman advises his subscribers of his expert market opinion each market day with his opening call newsletter. Right now, you can get a 2-week free trial to the opening call, Basil's daily trading newsletter, by visiting the front page of TFNN.com. Cancel at any time during that trial and pay absolutely nothing. Get your 2-week free trial to Basil's newsletter, The Opening Call, today by visiting TFNN.com.